team, and they have. There's a lot of really good stuff that goes on, I must tell you, and I think that we miss out on it if we're not participating or if we're not involved. But they've got some very, very good training on the go at the moment. Training about safe health and safety, and certainly as far as COVID is concerned. And it's a global course. It is charged in dollars, I will say. So unfortunately, I think that is a little bit prohibitive because it's not cheap for us in these times. But I am trying to get my hands on it and see if I can actually do it on their behalf, which may be an option. So we're getting there as far as that is concerned, which I think is great. And then they've put me on this, I think I mentioned it to you once before, on this committee, which is called the DEI, Diversity, what is it, DEI and Inclusivity. And anyway, it's been great. It's been a really, really interesting journey, and I am going to call on you to assist me in this process. I am going to say, if you've got your video on, Liz, you've got your video on. Do you want to turn it off? Just in case, I don't want you. I was on a call the other day and somebody started taking their top off. Not because she was trying to flash, but she was just putting her jersey on, and it just looked like she was removing her top. And we all had a cadenza because she didn't know she was actually on video. So it's going to be an interesting discussion that we have, and they've put me on the committee they've broken it up into gender and LGBTQI, and the intention really is, how are we addressing this in a GBTA perspective, and what are our members doing, and what are the businesses that they're involved in doing. And I am on the Race and Culture Committee. I'm in the Race and Culture Committee. And it's it's beautiful because I sit there as if I'm so knowledgeable, because South Africa and South Africans have come through such a journey. So, and when you do see just how far behind, embarrassingly far behind the rest of the world is, why there is the political and the drama that goes on in the streets of the US. So that's just a little bit from a GBTA perspective. Locally, we did some training a couple of weeks ago, and Nikki, I haven't forgotten, I do owe you things, but it was very good. It was a 2 mornings that we were busy, and it was crammed full of information. So I actually had to move it to get through all of the information. And we've updated it, and it's not really GBTA training anymore. We've actually tailored it to being our own South African version, and we refer to a number of the different initiatives that have happened and that are very pertinent to us at the moment. So I did find the GBTA training is very global. So if you are the global manager or travel manager, and you're responsible for the multinational network of companies, I think you would find it very interesting. But from our perspective, I had tailored it more on a local perspective. So that was really good. I don't know about you, but I am feeling, I don't know if I feel it in my waters, as my granny used to say, that we are on the verge of something opening up. I'm starting to see that there are things happening in the industry. And I'm hoping that you are feeling it as well. And if you are, just give me a high five or show me a hand or do something. But I think that there are the vaccinations that we were talking about earlier. More and more people are getting them and going the route. And we are hopefully going to see that in the next few weeks, we will venture further down the line of candidates to be vaccinated. So I don't know if anybody's agreeing with me. And straight away, as I've felt, is I've had feedback from companies saying, actually, the customers walk in now and say, we've been vaccinated. Where can we go? We want to go to the States. We want to go here. We want to go there. And so quite interesting. I think that is going to be the first thing that opens up. And I say to everybody, I just hope that when we do open up, we are ready. We've had a long, long time to prepare policies, to prepare processes, to rewrite the rules, and to make sure everybody's in place. And I just hope that we don't mess it up, and we are actually ready. From a TMC perspective, from a travel buyer perspective, that we're talking to our colleagues in our businesses, that we're keeping them in tune and communicating with them as to what the next steps are. So I think that's also very, very interesting. I am also, I think, the silver lining on the cloud for me, and I am involved with it to some degree, is United Airlines, the American carrier, will be landing in South Africa on the 4th of June or the 3rd of, I think they leave New York on the 3rd, so they'll be landing on the 4th of June, departing again on the 5th of June with a plane load of Americans and South Africans who have got all the necessary visas and that. And that is a flight that's going to fly directly from Johannesburg to Newark, which is just in Philly. Listen to me, I'm so American. I'm so international, Philadelphia. And the wonderful thing is, I think the Newark airport is closer to the central New York district than the JF Kennedy is. So from a traffic perspective, it's actually quite a good hub. And also on a connecting flight in the connection, or in the family or the UA family, there are a lot of options for anybody anywhere in the world ultimately. So I think that's really good. Now, that is going to be a daily direct out of Johannesburg and into Johannesburg, which, if a carrier like the United Airlines has given us that kind of confidence, sure, I am very excited. Obviously, we expect, or they anticipate, that it may not be a full capacity every day, but I think cargo will carry it for many months, or for the most part it will. But I will tell you that the capacity to date is high. The load capacity is really, it's like in the 90s. So fantastic. Really does just inspire and give a little bit of hope, which I think is what we're all looking at. The EU did make an announcement that anybody who had been vaccinated and could prove that vaccination would be welcome into the EU. However, I think you may have all seen that Lufthansa and some of the carriers have put out notices saying, except for countries where the variant has been prevalent. And I think that means us, actually. I think that's a South African issue. So yeah, we're still waiting, and I believe at the end of this month, early maybe next week, the UK are revising that policy that they put us on the red list. And I know that there's been a huge amount of work being done with SATSA and the Tourism Business Council, and the English ambassadors and the UK commercial networks, and just trying to speak some kindness and some good sense to the UK government to literally just put us to amber, because it really is such a burden, considering that we've actually managed the virus as best we possibly can in a country with so many people, and our rate is really not as hectic as they're carrying on about. So I don't know if there's anything anybody wants to add to the virus, or to the tests, or to all of the conversations I've just had. Has anybody got anything further they want to add? Are there any news? Liz just mentioned that Thailand is also opening up to us. It will take a 5-day quarantine in one of the luxury resorts on the beach, on the seafront. So you'll have to lie by the pool for 5 days. Must be really bad in Thailand. I think that could be nice.
Robin, sorry, they're opening up to the UK and Germany from the 1st of July, and they are reviewing all the countries. So whilst we're on the red list, we won't be there, but they review it every single month. So we hope that towards October, November, we will be welcome there again. But for now, they're only opening up with the countries that are pretty much fully vaccinated.
Sure. I hear you. So,
hi, everybody. I just read this morning on CNN Business News, just for interesting sake, that domestic leisure travel will be 100% restored by June with bookings ahead of 2019 levels and yield essentially recovered, says the Delta Airlines CEO or the president of Delta Airlines, which is quite interesting.
There you go. Yeah, I think everyone is getting quite bullish at this stage of the game, and that's great. That's great. Having said that, I think from a South African perspective, we speak to colleagues overseas, and I actually I can't help but just get quite annoyed because they're all still on furlough. I mean, the UK are not; they're still on like 3-day weeks, but they're getting paid, full wage. I said to them the other day, I said, you have no idea what South Africa has gone through. You have absolutely no idea. Where people are working on TERS, just what they received from TERS, and still remaining active in a business that can't afford to pay them. So I think we will perhaps see a little slower start, but for the best part, I think we're going to get going. There's no question about it. We really need corporate South Africa to move. That'll be great. The leisure side, I think we've carried as much as we can. People have done the tour, the domestic travel that they can, and will continue to. And we're seeing nice over regional bookings as well. But for this industry to recover, we really need the corporate market to get going. So, Suan, your hand is still up. Are you still got a question, or you still got a comment?
No, don't know why.
Thanks. Thank you. So I thought that I would just give you my version today of what my understanding is about the new distribution capability. I don't know if it's of any interest to anybody, if you would like to hear what my version is or how I think it's going to be approached and what's going to happen in the future. But I know that there is a lot of conversation around it. So if you're keen, show me a hand. I won't go on until you've all given me a hand. Pale. Okay, Carol, Suan, Irene. Sure, I didn't even see you all arriving. Thank you. Candanello, good morning. That's great.
Morning.
Okay, good morning. And Maureen is one. We've got 3 board members on. Is Fikile on as well? No, we've got 3 board members. Welcome. Pale, Maureen, and Amanda. It's wonderful. Okay, so it's a story, and I'm going to try and keep it as a story because I think it's possibly the best way that I could try and describe it. But if you remember all the years ago, and for those of us that were around, there was a time when the airlines actually owned the GDSs. And if you think about it, the GDS was probably the first version of Google that we ever knew in the world. The GDS was a way of booking, and in those days it was a GRS, it was a global reservation system, but it was a system prior to the Amadeus, Sabre, and Travelport acquisitions or design. There was a booking system, and it was a Safari. In those days it was called Safari. It was those kind of booking systems. But essentially, in those deep, dark days where there wasn't the internet, people were able to make a booking electronically and get a response. And it was phenomenal. The airlines put all their content on, and things worked really well. Understand as well that the airlines are charged, as time has evolved, the airlines have to pay a fee to put their content onto the GDS. They pay the GDS to have their content there. And it depends entirely, the prices are different, and it depends entirely on the volume. The more volume you put, the more negotiating power you have. So unfortunately, for perhaps in smaller carriers without they pay a higher premium than the very big ones. So the legacy guys tend to get away with a smaller fee. At the end of the day, it's everybody pays. couple of decades ago, we saw the first low-cost carrier flights coming out, the Ryanairs of the world, the EasyJets of the world. And they were the ones that said, actually, we're not going to distribute our content through the GDS. You want to book with us, you've got to go onto our website. And that was for them to try and make sure that they actually manage their distribution cost as best as possible. I don't have to go through the whole story, but you all know how that model works, where people said, if you want to be a part of them, you paid up front. If you wanted luggage, and there were all the jokes, if you wanted a safety belt, you paid for that. If you wanted to go to the loo, you paid for that. But it wasn't that bad. But low-cost carriers came into being, and they were, for the most part, non-IATA. And the IATA airlines were the main ones that I think went through the GDS. And if I am incorrect in anything I'm saying, I've got more people here that are much more knowledgeable, and I hope you're all going to jump in and correct me. But it worked really well for many, many years. Then in 2011, I happened to be, I was still at IATA at the time, and I happened to be in Singapore by invitation from IATA. We were on one of the big agency joint council meetings, and IATA asked us to remain for the next day when all of the airlines were coming in for a major meeting. And they asked that the agency members, the agency association members, join the meeting. And we weren't really welcome, but we sat at the back of the room, and they made this big announcement that they were going to introduce a capability that was going to be able to sell airline product the way airlines wanted it sold. They were scathing about the GDSs at the time, because as you may recall, a GDS still just presented a booking in cryptic, which was a language, if you weren't a travel consultant, you didn't understand. And it was what they called the green screen, because for the most part, in the old Galileo days, I think it was a green screen, and I think Amadeus came on with a blue screen, but essentially it was that green screen mentality. And IATA said, this is really not the way the airlines, who spend millions, billions on their branding, billions on their comfort, billions on their food and their safety, and the travel agent never sells it like that. TMCs are just selling it on price. And of course, travel agents, GDSs, we were all scathed. And the intention really is that they were going to make it so easy that anybody, a consumer, was going to be able to book directly in the same way that an agent was going to be able to book. And it was going to come into, they were beginning the development, and it was going to be a couple of weeks or months, and this was going to be a reality. What I think was premature is that they underestimated the amount of technology it was going to take to build. And very soon after that, we heard that actually IATA wasn't going to do the build. That wasn't for IATA to do. Each airline was going to build this capability that they could now sell this through IATA as a new tool. Well, that was in, as I say, 2011. In about 2016, we started hearing noises saying, it's coming. We've built the protocols. We know what needs to be done. And from an IATA perspective, there were many joint committees that were collected together. And they also soon realized that they actually couldn't exclude the GDSs. This was not something that they actually had to work very closely with, because the GDSs were a very dominant feature in the supply chain. And what the GDSs did very smartly was that they actually became enabled. So whatever the requirement was for that IATA were putting out, the GDSs became more than enabled. They are essentially technology companies, so they could do that. But I can speak from a Travelport perspective. I remember being there. We introduced SmartPoint, which was the whole reason that we introduced, well, not the whole reason, but a very significant reason about SmartPoint was it was visual. You could actually show your client the pitch of your seat. You could show, and they spoke about the ancillary effect, or the ancillary opportunities that existed in the distribution of airline seats. And the GDSs were all saying, well, we don't know what you're going on about, because actually we can put pictures. We can keep your brand as it was. We can show how much or what the special food is that you want. We can give seating plans. We can give airport plans. We can do all of that. So why would you build another system completely that if we can deliver? So there was also talk at the time that the airlines were saying they were looking, and I think the estimates 6 years ago was that there was like a 4 billion and 40 million were the numbers that were bandied around as to the income potential on ancillary fees. What it would cost. Now, if anybody's booked a SAF air flight recently, you book a ticket, and then if you want your luggage checked, and if you want anything else, you pay extra. And essentially, that is what they were looking at. So the travel industry were desperately trying to keep the charges of those ancillary fees in the same workflow and not get to the check-in counter. And now the customer has to look for 500 Rand because he's actually is going to have his vegetarian meal, or he does want a premium economy and there's an opportunity. They wanted to keep that in the workflow of the original booking so that they could obviously manage that customer far more efficiently. There's this war, there's been an ongoing battle, I think, as to who owns, you always hear the conversation, who owns a customer, and it's not about who owns a customer. You know, the airlines may want to have direct access with the customer, but they don't want to deal with customer queries. They may want to provide all of the details for a customer, but they don't want to provide the explanations verbally, or, you know, unless you can come through their website, they're not really interested. And not every customer is great on going through the website. There's some customers need to have one-on-one conversations with people. So the TMCs have obviously filled that gap and done great for the airline as well as for the consumer. So 2017, 2018, the GDSs all became compliant. It seemed every month there was somebody else saying we are now a level 3 provider in terms of the NDC, but nobody really understood what the NDC was all about. What was happening was that there was a leaderboard of airlines who had said, okay, we're going to commit to being NDC enabled, which means we will be able to build directly into consumer online systems, travel agency systems, and you will be able to have a direct link into our content without going via any other distribution mechanism, which meant that a TMC would have to have an API development to some extent through to KLM, Lufthansa, Qantas. Some of them were calling them direct connects at the time, but it BA, any of them, Emirates, Qatar, all of the main. Now, globally and from a South African perspective, you can imagine the burden on any kind of agency. It would be crazy. So what has happened in the world, as we know it, they've come up with some aggregators where they're saying, actually, we'll do the build into all of those airlines. All you need to do is just build us or give us your credentials. We'll then pipe it into our system and we will give you the content of the airlines. So suddenly there's a third party that's come into the picture to say, here we are, we can help you with those NDC fares. Is the intention to remove the GDS? I think if you owned an aggregator or if you were in that game, you'd probably say, yeah, right. But actually, it's not. The intention is not that at all. I think that the intention is that there will still be content that goes through the GDS, but there will be content that the airlines want to sell, that they are going to want to sell without the distribution costs attached to it. And they're almost going to give whoever they're selling it to in a net environment. Now, there could be markups. There could be you could pay it on to your or pass it on to your customer at a net fare, but there's going to be development that has to be built so that you can have access to low-cost carriers, NDC, GDS, online, direct. If you think of it across the spectrum, the pool of being able to pull content is just getting bigger and bigger as we speak. Now, if the drive for your business is on lowering costs and lowering prices, the NDC does that. It really does that, and unashamedly they do that. So instead of actually instead of charging and recovering costs from the airline fee that they charge, the GDS may be charging an airline, that it's almost without fees in the process. So the airlines have built these systems and they're passing it on at a net price. Now, the cost of selling that at net is not net. There is a huge cost to actually being able to include that and putting it into your search and making sure you've got the technology that can accommodate that if you're a distributor. And the distributor could be an agency, it could be an online booking tool, it could be an online site, whatever. There's a cost for you to actually pull that content in. So they would build in a cost to be able to accommodate that. But essentially, the NDC is there to provide access to, and I don't want to say cheaper, because it may not always be cheaper, but more efficient selling on behalf of, from an airline perspective. So it's certainly, in 2019, this was now becoming it was becoming a very real issue. Everyone was getting on, this was now moving very quickly. And as I mentioned, there was a leaderboard. Now, it's very difficult in a country if your national carrier is not driving that development. Now, of course, in South Africa, our national carrier is not driving that development, but our other carriers, Lufthansa, British Airways, Emirates, Qatar, Air France, KLM, Singapore, Qantas, Cathay, all of them have developed extensively and have gone a long way down the line to make those developments real. So when there was a lot of thought when COVID hit, everyone said airlines are actually just trying to survive. They're not actually building technology. There's no ways that they're going to build anything further. They haven't got the money, they haven't got the time, they haven't got the resources. The other side of it was the airlines were saying, actually now more than ever, we need to go out after COVID or post-COVID and be able to sell our content as efficiently as we possibly can. So the difference is that they talk about surcharges are going to be charged on certain distribution methods. Surcharges in a South African context is really not a huge thing because there is a, when you're selling a ticket for 50,000 Rand, a 16 euro surcharge doesn't really dent or raise the price any either here nor there. So, but you still have a workflow of good content or good booking. But if your customer is looking for a more efficient or perhaps a more economical way of actually making the booking, agents are now able to offer NDC, low cost, GDS, and even in the GDS, I mean, there have been examples where the prices are actually the same as what an NDC may be. So it is more than ever about making sure that you have access to the right content, the companies that are delivering you the right content, because that is just, it's exploding. So I have to say that I do think that those airlines who perhaps have been affected the most from a COVID perspective, and I can tell you they all have, as you know, they all have. They are the ones who are going to be more inclined to have a multi-distribution channel multi-distribution channel strategy. And if you know the word omni-channel, that's also kind of what they're looking at, is to make sure that they're able to actually sell high, sell economically, and not get burdened with anything else that they used to get burdened with in the past. So it's here. There is, but no doubt, there is the NDC is in play at the moment, and I know that many companies are becoming enabled, and you'd be silly not to. Really, from a TMC perspective, you would be really silly not to, because it's important that you do have the choice. Of course, there's going to be competition amongst those that are providing the NDC content as well, and it's all going to be in the search, the speed of the search, the broadness of the search, who's got the, what carriers are available to them, the variety, the extent. So it's going to be very, very interesting times going forward. And I think great for the customer. But again, I don't think any of us are going to come out of COVID thinking that flights are going to be dirt cheap. They're not. They're going to be efficient. But for the most part, I think as a buyer, you may fly less, but you will probably continue to pay the same. The airlines have got to recover. We are going to go through a recovery phase, which is going to be something we're all just going to have to be tolerant about, and just make sure that the design of the trip is going to be more efficient. So in a nutshell, that's really what the NDC, it's termed the NDC, which is the new distribution capability. The capability being the key word is the capability is how they want to distribute their content. And of course, content is king in today's world. Content gives experience, and the access to content is really what's driving the world, or driving the world of travel. So as I think you would know. I know we've got travel companies on board. Am I speaking any truth in this? Am I on board? Kananela, I'd love to hear your opinion if you think if I'm on or not on, right or wrong.
I think I've never had a very, very good background of travel technology and distribution summarized in 20 minutes. But very, very comprehensive, Robin. I think you are spot on in terms of what you are explaining. There are actually, as you rightly say, new aggregators in terms of the NDC content, because we as TMCs, one of the attractions to us for the GDS was the speed of service and just getting to one place where you can get everything, and the speed of turnaround and efficient service to the clients. So going on the airline individually will not work for us. Will just pull us back. And with the crisis that we are in now in terms of coronavirus, we are trying to maximize productivity. We focus on automation. So we won't be pulled back. So you're actually right that the NDC will be accessible, but we will be accessible through APIs. And instead of making different APIs for every airline, we may actually look at the aggregators that will bring us that content as one. So the challenge, I think, is for the clients to understand that the cost savings that they're going to save, that the airlines are saving them by not going through the GTS. There's still a cost to the TMC to use an aggregator, or to develop an API, or there's still technology involved on the TMC side. So the net effect is likely, we don't know where it will fall, but it is likely to be more or less the same. So I'm just saying that the buyers here should not expect a huge reduction in cost going forward. So that expectation may not turn out to be because of the additional cost to the TMC now of having an aggregator for the NDC content. But an excellent summary. Well done. You can write a book. You can write a book. Thank you.
Thanks, Kananela. Thank you. Pali, I see your hand is up.
Yes, Robin, thank you very much, and good morning to colleagues on the platform. And I want to concur with Ndate Kananela. You did a wonderful job. You really explained it. The way it was explained to me by ComAir. And also let me also indicate that ComAir through BA have also developed that capability. They are having the NDC capability. And I had a session with them where they were explaining what is it and how does it operate. And am I audible?
Yes, you are. We can hear you perfectly.
Okay, thank you. What is it and how is it going to affect other things? So it exactly the way you explained it is exactly the way they explained it to me, and I'm happy that we're starting to get to know and understand this whole concept of NDC. And I also agree with Ntate Kananelo to say let's not get too excited to say when they sell the product direct to us without via GDSs, it's going to have too high saving or cost saving, because there's still some other platforms that need to be created on that. But I also am having this question that I want to put forward, not only to you, Robin, but maybe to the platform, to say, is this NDC concept that is airline and client cannot be used in other travel products?
Yes.
I think that's my question, because I know for a fact that on my RFP of online, it is one of the requirements that the system should be NDC agnostic. So my question then becomes, because this was actually an airline interaction among themselves, and then they came up with this concept, and they needed each and every airline to develop the capability and make it available so that it can work. And the question that always comes to me is, much as now it's active in the airlines, can it not be used for any other travel product? Let me give you an example. If accommodation facility providers also have the capability of putting their 70% on GDS, but 30% direct to their suppliers, wouldn't that work? Let me pause here, Chair.
Thank you, Polly. And is there anybody who would like to answer that? No, there's not. So I think there are already aggregators. And I think that there are, if you look at the accommodation sites and the .coms and the, the booking.coms and, there's a company in South Africa now called eBeds, and all of the other, I've just gone completely blank, of a number of the different local and the international aggregator platforms. And I think from an NDC perspective, those companies who are delivering or who are building platforms, and the one I personally know and am involved with, they are building a platform to encourage or to include the accommodation, the ground transport, the cars, all of that. So absolutely, I think that is a way that it is going to go, Polly. Ugashni, you're better equipped to answer this than I am.
Hi, Robin. Hello, Polly. So just talking about the NDC, so what we've done at Piermont is we've joined Sabre Synexus, and we've created our own online booking tool. So it's I wouldn't call it a corporate booking tool, because it can be used both by the tour operators, as well as the corporate buyer. And we used to use a third-party operator before, and that was very costly. So we've decided just to contract directly with Sabre, and we've got that direct connectivity. So it's a nexus, and it's cheaper as well, because every time an agent books via the GDS, we pay a dollar-based fee to so we had to look at something that's cost effective and also provide a seamless service as well. Having to phone, etc. You just go on, you get your login details, your preferential rates are available online as well. So that's we've decided to go ahead with Sabre.
That's great. That's great. So actually, is the cost of your rooms going to come down now because you're saving $1 every time you book it? I'm joking.
So, having said that, prior to me joining Piermont, they used to have that differentiation. If you didn't book on the GDS, you had a different fee because of that dollar-based fee. So, but we've decided to, flatten it out and provide, a rate that doesn't confuse the client. Book on this and you save on this and book on this channel. So that's why we invested in Sabre Synexus.
Right.
Yeah.
So I just and what highlights to me all of these platforms, because they are and I just want to say, so if I want to book a Piermont property, I'm going to go onto their direct system and do it that way. If I want to book an and beyond property, I'm going to go into their system. So as a booking agent, as a travel agent, it's hectic.
Yes.
Because there are so every avenue or every kind of booking that you're trying to make, you're having to go into, and this is definitely going to be the model, is exactly to your point. You don't want to pay GS fees, but you want your product out there.
Yeah.
So the more we get into this, and the more effective and the smarter the booking tools get, you will find that you're probably going to pay in the end, because you're going to pay to be at the top of the booking channel if you years down the line, let's say. Maybe I'll be in my old age home by then, but that's the way it may end up.
Yeah, and you have the likes of your Google now as well.
Yeah.
That's competing with the other OTAs. So you also want to be number one on that, and that costs money.
Absolutely.
So you've got all these different channels, but everybody's just trying to be that top of mind awareness at the end of the day. That's what you want when you look. Yeah,
that always brings me to another conversation completely, because I think we have to play the game that you're playing at the moment. We have to, as TMCs, as suppliers, and as buyers. You have to be in the flow with the right groupings.
Yeah.
But we're so busy paying for visibility that we are forgetting the experience. And the customer experience we're not forgetting it. I don't think for 1 second you guys are forgetting it. But if I was a buyer, I would want to know so much more about the suppliers I'm doing business with today than just the cost of the business, or cost of the ticket, cost of the bed, because there is so much more at stake, from clinical, hygiene, duty of care, accessibility, all of those things. I think there really is, that's going to be a very, very broad avenue. So if you've got those relationships with your buyers, you find that here with the GBTA network, that probably for me has got more value than searching online. I would leave that to other markets. But from a corporate perspective, I think the relationship and the dynamic between travel buyer, TMC, supplier is probably as tight as it's ever going to be, or it's going to have to be tighter.
Yeah, because people buy from people.
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, and it comes from trust as well. And you talk on a big touch point regarding price. If you're too cheap, people wonder why you're so cheap. And if you look at the market dynamics, and because you usually have rate parity with the same product with the same star rating, and if you are really cheap, so what are you not offering? Yeah. So a lot of our international buyers also look at that. They actually will go for a slightly higher price because they're like, oh, I'm getting a product that's going to provide me a full service, and then they start questioning as to why something is so cheap.
Yeah.
So,
well,
yeah,
that is important. And I think from a buyer perspective, the technology that the agents are using today is it's really smart. There is so much that it can do. But it can also manage the behavior of the booking. So, so much more can be done. And the savings doesn't necessarily have to be on the price of the goods. The saving can be in the pre-booking, in the time to book, or the way you're booking, and all those sort of things. And those are the conversations I think as an industry we should be having more of.
Yeah, and like also most of the time, your saving actually comes in the value adds. You got to look at properties that's charging you parking and that's not charging you parking. Is the rate inclusive of tourism levy, excluding tourism levy? And that all adds up.
Absolutely.
So it's not just about the price. You've got to look at the value adds that come with that as well.
Absolutely. Yes. Is there anybody else with something to say? I saw somebody's hand. Madrin, hi.
Hello, Robin.
How are you?
I'm fine, Robin. How are you?
I'm good. Good, thank you. Lovely to have you.
Thank you. All right. This NDC and whatever BC what, it is just so confusing from the buyer's perspective. I know that the industry changes things quite a lot. And as a buyer, I have chosen one TMC. And I would prefer that I deal with that one TMC. If they have to buy the NDC capability so that I can still access them through one source of that information that is travel related, I prefer it to be that way. Because now with everything that I'm dealing with internally, which the industry doesn't know about, just adding on another platform to just get one item of the whole travel experience is just too much, really. So as a buyer, I prefer that everything comes from the TMC. If they have to, the airlines have separated themselves from the TMC, but the TMC knows that the customer needs this service, and if they have to purchase that, and I get that information through the TMC, I would rather it go that way,
Yeah.
And then the TMC must just be then transparent to tell me, okay, these are the changes in the industry, and we ended up purchasing this, and because we have done this is the cost to us, and obviously then we have to share the cost, and that this is how much it costs you, something like that. It is there. Just be transparent with me and explain to me what is now new and how much it's going to cost. Then I'll be okay with that as a buyer.
No, and every TMC on this call today, believe me, they're doing a little dance around their desk, because that's exactly what's needed. That's exactly, your business is not in running a TMC. Leave that to them. You've chosen the partner. That's where the trust exists, and that's where the technology is. That's where the knowledge, the skill set, the experience, all of that. So well said. Couldn't have said it better.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
I received a communication from my TMC about this Fly Staff Air, the baggage, and that that fare component that excludes, I think, baggage, something like that, can be removed, or we can keep it. So they are giving me a choice, either to remove it or to just keep it in the system, because on my side as well, everybody makes their own bookings. So I need to know what I need to train internally on. So it's my choice. It's my decision to either say keep it on, and then I take on the responsibility to train my travelers, and to achieve some cost savings. But then I can still take it out, but obviously then I'm going to lose out on my cost savings. So because of that transparency, to say, okay, here it is, you choose. Now I have to decide whether to drive my cost savings through that, or take it out completely, knowing how my travelers behave, and then just look for cost savings from somewhere else.
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Well,
thank
Thank you. I see, sorry, yeah, I see Cananello, your hand is up.
Thank you very much again, Robin, and greetings to the colleagues again. I just want to follow up on maybe two things. One, just to assure Margaret that indeed, the TMCs are really investing in understanding what the NDC is, investing in APIs, and investing in our technologies, self-booking tools, to enable you as the buyer and your travelers to have full content, including both GDS content and the non-GDS NDC content from one source. You won't even know what is happening at the back, and leave that to us. It's our challenge that we fully embrace. Moving on, I just want to go back to what Ndate Pale said about the hotel, and try to find out from the Gashni as well whether, I mean, the whole NDC goes with ancillaries and differentiation and choice of clients in terms of what they want and the value that they want and the value that they're prepared to pay. Will the hotel perhaps just asking the question in a different format, be looking at also like ancillaries format, like if you don't want parking, you're using Uber to go to the hotel, why should you pay for parking? If you don't want the hotel, I mean the gown in your room, why should you pay for that? Can you get a discount if you want a room without a gown, etc., etc.? Just some examples of packaging for the ancillaries for the hotels. Is there a program like that? And yes, indeed, Robin is right. There are so many aggregators that are very efficient in the hotel space at the moment that we are working with, eBeds and them. But I just want on that aspect of ancillaries and unpacking the room concept, just like the airlines have unpacked the experience, the airline traveling experience, and giving the travelers a choice of how they want to, what experience they want, and how much they want to pay for that experience. Are the hotels looking at that? Thank you.
Good question. Good, yeah, absolutely. And Madron, I see you are back.
Yeah, I just want to ask two questions. Firstly, is this NDC global? And then is there a list of NDC items that have been affected from the whole group? Or
if I was you, I would speak to your TMC, but yes, it is global. It is 100% global. In fact, South Africa has been one of the last adopters. I think one thing that I did leave out, actually, which is quite an important aspect of it, is that it emanated, and for companies like, or airlines like Lufthansa, it became a very real issue, because on their local and their domestic routing, they were losing money hand over fist. I mean, that was where the low-cost carriers were really beating them up, on the Frankfurt, Charles de Gaulle routing, or the Frankfurt, Hamburg routing, or whatever, those very small, short flights. And that's where initially they started charging surcharges, and they started trying to do everything. But I think for them, that was really where this became a very, very important part of their future strategy. So yeah, it's been launched overseas. I think most of the carriers, American, the Canadians, the East, everybody have adopted NDC to the greater extent. But there are also some airlines who are not enabled, and those airlines are on the next lead. They're not on the leaderboard. They're on the second and third queue as such, but they will ultimately all get there. But on the other issue as to who is, I would speak to your TMC and just get a list of airlines that they, and get their story as well. Get them to explain to you how they search for good deals and search for best price and search for convenience as well.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you. Is there anybody else with a hand up? No, I think it's just... anybody else with something to say? Because I see we're on 10:58. I never thought that we would go on for an hour, but we have. I hope it was of interest. I'm happy to hear that it's generated some content. I certainly don't think that it's anything that you need to be worried about. I think it is going to be a part of the business that we go ahead with. Quite rightly so, Madrin, you don't want to be burdened with all of that. I think if I was a travel buyer today, I would be designing material, communication material, training policies for my travelers today and future travelers, and make sure that they're all versed with policies and why they should not deviate from policy. I think there's lots of work that you've got to do. So leave this to your TMC, who are more than well equipped. Nikki, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I've recorded it if anybody wants to read it again and see it again.
Oh, yeah.
Or share it with their company.
Well, I prefer shared very broadly. It was for this meeting, but if you want to do it from a learning perspective, absolutely. If you want to pay for it, we're more than happy to come up with a fee. Oh. Well, thank you. I think that's it then. I'm going to say thank you very much. Thanks for joining. And if, anything else you want to say or add, by all means, go ahead. If you need to drop off, have a good Wednesday. Cheers. I hate waving, but I'll wait.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Cheers then. Debbie. Did Debbie van Heerden?
Yes.
I know. She's left. She got off there so quickly. And Maureen was on.
Yeah, I'm just taking everybody off now. Well, not even, Maureen was there, Parley was there, Martin was there. So I think Parley had actually asked a lot of people to attend it. I actually thought it was quite amazing. Went very, very quickly.
You see. Well, I hope, as I say, I hope I'm right. I am right. I know I'm right. I know, and I've got to be very careful, because there's some things I don't want to say and piss off the GDSs, and I also don't want to say and upset the TMCs, and I also don't want to say things and upset the buyers. So I'm trying to be diplomatic and politically correct and all that. But anyway.
Actually, jolly interesting. Is there is there any more unpacking to do with the NDC? Because a lot of people just don't seem to understand it at all.
No, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. Yeah, it's phenomenal. I would love them all to use my platform, but it is phenomenal what it's doing and how it's doing it. And of course, the travel agents are also going to have to be very careful, because they can't now start being greedy, saying, oh, I'm getting the ticket for 80 euros.